Our topic today is love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. And those were the directives from Neem Karoli Baba, who is the amazing guru who lived in India and who was the teacher of Ram Dass. And probably most of us know who Ram Dass is. And he's also called Maharishji. And Ram Dass has devoted his life to bringing these teachings to the Western world. And we are surely grateful for that. Ram Dass wrote the book Be Here Now, and he's written Be Love Now, and many, many other books. And so somehow I was just inspired to talk about God. And, sometimes we don't always do that. We hedge around it and we call it spirit and divinity. And there's sometimes a reticence to use the word God. And that's for good reason, because there's a lot of baggage with that word. And it turns a lot of people off, unfortunately, myself included sometimes. But I just felt inspired to talk about God. And so Ram Dass came to my mind because of anybody who teaches these days. I think he is one of the most anyway, out there about devotional spirituality. In India and in Hinduism, it's the bhakti path of spirituality, of religion. And this is what this guru, Neem Karoli Baba, taught. And so I spent most of yesterday reading excerpts from this book, The Miracle of Love, which is a compilation of many, 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 many stories and commentaries by all the people who actually knew Neem Karoli Baba and benefited from his teachings. And it became very apparent to me that what I need to do to prepare for speaking today was to get myself in that space, to get centered, to myself remember God, remember who I am. Because we have to get out of our head, out of our intellect, out of our thinking system and into our heart. And to do that, well, we've been doing that all morning, haven't we? To do that, we have many forms of celebration, of experiencing Godness through beautiful poetry and stories, through the readings and the perfect reading that Carol found for today. And the beautiful words Joy brought to us, not only in the meditation, but in announcement time when she got up here and from her heart spoke about gratitude. And from the music, and a lot of times Laura, we all just sort of try to figure out what's the spirit song for the day, and a lot of times I'll be looking through our songbook and I go, oh, not that, oh, there's nothing in this songbook that works. And it was so funny. I called Laura and I said, oh, Laura, I found so many songs that I love. That are just perfect for today. And I hope you can stomach it, but can we do page 20? Because it's exactly what the talk is about. I want to know you more. I want to love you more. I want to serve you more. And it just goes to show that whatever perspective we're coming from colors what we're looking at. And it is possible to love everything. To love everybody, and I mean everybody. To love all of it. Because God is all of it. God is everywhere, in everything, in every person. And what a gift. I'm so thankful I had to talk today because it led me to remembering Ram Dass and remembering Neem Karoli Baba. And I remember even before I thought about, I said, okay, those are his words, but I'm not going to read his book because every time I read his book, I just feel like I'm off in some other land. But it kept coming back, read his book, read his book. And so I'm reading his book yesterday, and there's a whole section about feeding people. One way to serve is to feed people. Prepare food, and prepare the food with love, and share that food. And I'm, thinking about I have to do this talk tomorrow, and I should be spending the whole rest of the evening writing notes and doing my talk and getting ready for my talk. And I'm reading right then a paragraph about God feeding, that when we feed people, we're feeding God. When we are feeding people, we are God. And Randall comes in and says, hey, I got this phone message from Mary. I'm going to embarrass you, Mary. Maybe. And she wants us to come over for dinner. She said she's got this big batch of turkey soup, and knows it's like last minute, spontaneous, but can you come over? And so my head is saying, oh no, I have to work on my talk. And then my heart said, how perfect, how perfect. How better to be ready for a talk today than to experience being fed, being loved. So thank you so much, Mary. And I'm so glad I had the courage to go against my intellect and go to my heart. And Randall was on board, and we showed up. And so it was Mary and Steve at their home. And then Eric and Kathy Dyer, Eric Engel and Kathy Dyer were also invited over. And here's another part about feeding people. It's not just food. It's feeding them loving thoughts, loving energy. And so when we got there, Eric says, how about we all sit around here and we each say something wonderful that happened today, something good that happened today. And so we sat and we shared and we listened to one another and we heard just loving, wonderful stories. So we're feeding each other that idea, that spark. We didn't talk about politics. We didn't talk about all the troubles in the world. We didn't talk about, oh, woe is me. We talked about what we're grateful for, what wonderful thing happened, or what good thing. It didn't even have to be wonderful, but what good thing happened. And so that was the start of the evening, and then we had this amazing soup, and it was just so nourishing, and we had sweets, we had pie, and apple crisp, and it was just a fabulous evening, and it was the experience of what the talk is. Love everyone, serve everyone, and remember God. And we can do that in the simplest ways every day. And, all the miracles are there. We simply have to be willing to open the heart, stop the mind, stop worrying and thinking and planning and, blah, blah, blah. The noisy mind. Well, let it go and check in with the heart. What would serve me right now? What would serve others right now? That's what I should be doing. That's what I should be talking about. That's what I should be sharing. And so I want to go back to the concept of love everyone. And I bet every one of us can think of at least 5 people that we can't love. They do not deserve our love. They're horrible people, whether it's Washington or, those family members that we had to be with on Thanksgiving Day. But you know what happens when we're holding those people out of our heart? Even the worst of the worst? What's happening? it's poisoning ourselves. It is doing nothing to help ourselves or humankind. So how do you do that? How do you love everybody when you don't like what they're doing? You don't like how they're behaving. You're afraid that they're going to cause calamity, either on a global level or a personal level. How do you do it? Well, you see, we live in duality. We live from our soul, from our love, from our divinity, and then we live in form. Sometimes we are mistaken and think we have to we have to do everything out in form. That's where the doing happens, and we have to do something. Because if we don't do something, then we're condoning it. But if we're doing that from hatred, from fear, from judgment, all we're doing is adding to the fear and the hatred and the judgment. And as I said, poisoning ourselves. So we remember the truth. We remember who we really are. We remember who those 5 people really are. They don't know it maybe, but they're never going to know it if we don't let them know it. If we continue to judge, they're going to continue to contract. But if we send them love, not love from our head, not love from, I love what you're doing, no. Because that would be false, wouldn't it? Love from our hearts. And so we need to get back in our heart so that we can see from that higher perspective and see, there are things going on that really aren't loving. But underneath all of that, we're all the same. We're all one. We're all spirit. We're all loving souls of the same creation. Every single being, every single thing is of that same creation. It's all love. And our task is to see it, to believe it, to enact it. And say no when it's appropriate to say no, but say it with love, without judgment, just with knowing in your heart, this is love, this is what love looks like. And let's bring more of that out. Let's bring more of that out. So I just have a few quotes that I wanted to read. And, some people may think guru, shuru, what's all that about? And even Ram Dass had that belief. And Ram Dass talks about the unconditional love of Neem Karoli Baba, the unconditional love. And another person that had gone to India around about the same time by the name of Larry Brilliant, he said, "How do I explain who Maharaji was and how he did what he did? I don't have an explanation. Maybe it was his love of God. I can't explain who he was. I can almost begin to understand how he loved everybody. I mean, that was his job. He was a saint. Saints are supposed to love everybody. But that's not what always staggered me. Not that he loved everybody, but that when I was sitting in front of him, I loved everybody. That was the hardest thing for me to understand. How could he so totally transform the spirit of people who were with him and bring out not just the best in us, but something that wasn't even in us that we didn't know? I don't think any of us were ever as good or as pure or as loving in our whole lives as when we were sitting in front of him. And that is the power of loving beings. And, maybe we have saints in the room, and maybe we don't think we have saints in the room, but anytime we are loving, it's contagious. it spreads. And I know we've all experienced that. So that is the love of God, the love of guru, saint, the love of the person sitting next to me. It's all there. And I think I'll just end with this quote. This is from Ram Dass. I'm going to preface it with a story he told. He told about a time when he was in India, and the Westerners would come. Of course, he was a Westerner, but he was one of the one of the first that at least talked about and wrote about it. And then the word spread, and a lot of people wanted to go to India at that time in the late 60s, early 70s, and Ram Dass was so angry at those Westerners because they weren't getting it. They were just over there. They were, eating the food and not appreciating, and whatever. And he was just so angry that he threw the food that someone had presented to him. And Maharajji saw that, and he said, "Come here. What's the matter?" And I'm just so angry at those people. And he says, "But I told you love everybody." "Yes, but you also told me love everybody and tell the truth. And I'm telling you the truth, I can't stand those people." And so Maharajji said, "All right, well," and he got real close to him and said, "Love everybody and tell the truth." And he said, "If every day you let go of a little bit of your anger, I will help you. I will be there." And so he talked about polishing the mirror. And so later, Ram Dass has written a book called Polishing the Mirror, How to Live from Your Spiritual Heart. And so here's what he says. This is Ram Dass. "When your mind is quiet, you enter into the flow of love, and you just flow from one moment to the next, as naturally as breathing. Whatever arises, I embrace it with love in the moment. This is my practice of polishing the mirror to reflect Maharajji's love. In this moment, there is just awareness and love. If someone asks me how to get into their heart, I give them this practice. Say, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness."